low back plus, lower traps just above the lower back, QLs on either side of the low back, strength opposite of the low back, flexibility opposite of the low back, flexibility inside the hips, outside the hips of your backside
and front side.
And within direct low back training, notice how there's more tension here, less tension here. More here, less here, and more here, but less here. And in my observation, all these areas relate to low back function. But if that's daunting, think the opposite. That's how much potential I think your back has with any one of these areas capable of helping it. You could probably find more. These are just the ones that I have a lot of experience coaching and getting results with. And safety reminder, every exercise scales to levels less than what you might naturally experience in life with some simple form of long-term progression. And now here's what makes this a mini mastery course. Being in the gym with me, getting data that I don't think I've ever quite put out online, or at least the highest levels of the data that I've put out online. Sled. You may have seen me make a lot of videos with this. I have plenty of B-roll of putting 1,000 pounds on a sled, even having my mom try to drag 1,000 pounds. She's 70, and showing that the sled just doesn't move. That's because the resistance is from the ground, not bearing down on me. I'll set this up while explaining the history of this. For the lower back, Louis Simmons, the same guy who invented sled as an exercise, also came up with something called the reverse hyper, or a simple way to think of it might be a reverse back extension. So he makes different versions of this. They're great. I highly recommend gyms have one similar to a sled, and I'll show you an example of why. This is just a style I've been working on. In this position, I can work my lower back muscles without load bearing down here. So if someone was really, really worried, really fragile, sled, or even just get lots of walking backward in, sled allows you to gradually add resistance to that. For the record, I think forward is a bit similar to reverse hyper because you're getting some strengthening of these posterior muscles, again, without the load bearing down on your back. And with the reverse hyper, you could pump away, you could add ankle weights, so you could work away getting burning in those low back muscles without actually loading down on the low back. So I see these as a comparison. It's the same kind of science. The load isn't bearing down on you, so you can work pretty vigorously. You can get a lot of circulation. You can make progress in a super safe way. Then you get into something like the back extension. So just to give the relative importance, for me, I'm not someone who uses the reverse hyper. My back's in good shape, and I'm getting, I'll grab the weight I typically use, I'm getting tension in a similar position as the reverse hyper. So when I'm in this position, when I get about 20 reps, I'm going until I'm like almost at a failure of my body to stay in this position. My hamstrings end up burning, my glutes burn, my lower back muscles burn. It also happens to give some nice range of motion. So like this is my overall favorite because I get that tension. But the reason I don't say this is the only one is notice in this bottom position, like you could relax in this position. There's not actually that much tension. Starting about here and through that range is where the tension is. Whereas if we go to the opposite side of that, with the seated good morning, here, you don't have the tension yet. If you're in this position, like the lower back really isn't under tension yet, but now look where's the tension. So if you compare, this is like the opposite end of it. This is also stretching a bit differently in the inner thighs. So here is where the tension is the most, and then here's where there's less. And then with this one, so like this was more like the tougher position of the back extension. Here, there's not tension yet. But then as I go more, my thigh and torso are kind of in a mid position now. This stretches those hamstrings well. So with the hamstring stretching, like if I bend down to pick something up, if I was very stiff, my back might be under more pressure. If I wanted to squat down to pick something up and my inner thighs were tight, it might be under more pressure. So you have the ability, the strength. I just showed you 3 strength exercises. I'm not saying to be weak, but also the flexibility. So if I had to like get down and get something, I would have those flexibilities, but then I wouldn't be, if I was stiff, I might be here and have like undue stress. So this is kind of what makes it a mastery series, is understanding the relationship of the back extension, the Romanian deadlift, or whatever you want to call that, the seated good morning or seated deadlift, whatever you want to call that. Which one is the best? That's the question that I asked myself many times and stopped asking myself. The best is all three. If you can work on them in a balanced manner, helps prevent overtraining, gives you a mixture of flexibilities and strength. It tends to be, like for my dad, this is the one he could confront doing. I got him a back extension for his living room because I said, just put your hands and do that one time. Like, what if you just gradually build up doing that? But no, I don't think that would make my back as overall resilient as doing all three. Doing all three is why I don't have to worry about my back. And it's similar with the knee. You've got the undercut with the sled, just as we have the undercut with the reverse back extension. But then we have reverse step-ups. Similar to that back extension, if you see the tensions towards the end of the movement, similar to the back extension. And then the split squat, notice here, this is not a hard position yet. That becomes much harder. This reminds me a lot of the seated good morning. This position being easy, and then the deeper one being tougher. And actually, if you look at that split squat plus the flexibility of the seated good morning, you put those together, and that's what allows me to like sit in this position. So you're getting different inner hip, butt, thigh muscles with those. And then you put something together like a squat. Here's the fundamental difference with a squat and a split squat, because this is also full range. But let's notice the halfway point of a good squat. Look at the knee. You're still under tension, whereas the halfway point of a split squat, it's much easier. So split squat is more a bottom range. Squat is still a bottom range, but also more, because I'm going here, I'm not going like that. So it's working throughout, not as much in the top range. That's where then you have to step up. So again, which did more for my knee journey? You know, I probably even should stop trying to guess on that question, because so many people say the sled is what broke through, or the reverse hyper is what broke through. The back extension was my breakthrough, or the step up was my breakthrough, the split squat, or the seated good morning, or the Romanian deadlift, or the squat. So you have four parallels, not absolutes, general guides. Sorry for being out of breath, but this is why I like the live demos. It can show it a little bit better. So here on YouTube, you get the best overall mixture. You get the scripted, where I'm doing my best to educate in 60 seconds or less. And then it's like really being with me in the gym, because this is how everything I'm showing you here, I was already doing before you saw me on social media, before I made the name Knees Over Toes Guy. My friends, thanks to those of you who were training with me in person, telling me, hey, people need to hear this data. You need to put this out there on social media. Been over 6 years of that. So if I'm out of breath from a live demo, that's part of just keeping it honest to how I used to show people this stuff in person. So there you go. That was a mini mastery course on lower back ability, but also a comparison, almost a mini mastery course on knee ability. And then the last part's like those lower trap muscles and QLs and different flexibilities. I've got plenty of videos on those, and I will definitely do videos like this breaking down each of those. I already have them. You can write in any question right here on YouTube, and I'll answer you with the answer or with the right video that answers that question that I've already done. These are examples of knee ability, back ability in the app based on your equipment access. You can go from knee ability or back ability 0 to basics to pro. So you could start these. You could start knee ability, back ability with no equipment. Same for ATG, is like a mixture of knee ability, back ability, along with the shoulders. It's like a full body program. So ATG 0, you can toggle right to pro. ATG Pro shows all the stuff I do. That's how it works. There's no long-term contract, and we have an industry low price, same as when I went online 6 years ago, industry low price to answer your questions and coach videos of your form. So you can master this, know everything I know, and then hopefully be really powerful at helping not just your body, but anyone around you who's dealing with issues, not to necessarily fully solve it, but to help someone have more ability, less pain. That's a pretty cool skill. Thank you for bearing with me through this style, with this current YouTube style. I'm simply trying to reflect what it seems like you guys like the most. Scripted intro, and then some kind of personal conversation with me as if you're right here in the gym. See you again soon.